What's your approach to adding dogs to the pack?
I mean, obviously, you have to see at the pack dynamic and who is the dog in there that and how they interact. And when you bring that one, I would definitely do it outside of the home first, and maybe take them on a walk and see how they interact. And then you're gonna see what issues you're gonna have inside the house. Obviously there has to be boundaries of like, hey, if you're gonna be petting this dog, make sure this one knows that it's not his turn. It's gonna be this dog's turn, and you could take turns with each dog, and they have to view you as the main person there calling the shots. And I think that's the hardest part when you bring in a new dog. If one of the dogs there feels like he's leading the pack, he's going to be checking that dog, making sure that he establishes himself as the main one. And I do see that a lot. And a lot of people they'll bash, like they'll talk about Cesar Millan and how he spoke a lot about the being the pack leader and this and that, but it really does come down to that. I mean, you see it all the time. If you're around, nothing, they're all good, and all of a sudden you leave the equation and you leave them alone, they're gonna become what they become. And if there's two males there, and if there was a female there and she was in heat, I guarantee you those two males will probably end up fighting.
This that go and get it with no hesitation. This that never quit. Start that elevation. This that process. This that in the making.
What is going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of Elevated Canine Podcast. I am here with my co-host
Roel Guerra.
And today we have the pleasure of having my brother Taijon from Kaizen Canine, all the way from Atlanta. What's up, bro?
What's up with y'all? I'm happy to be here in LA.
How's LA treating you?
Good. So shout out to Chris from Canine Logic. He's been hosting me, and it's been sweet, bro. This place is like the capital of dogs. I feel like there's no other place in the country where there's this much passion for dogs.
That's awesome. So you're gonna be over here pretty soon?
I could see myself getting a spot out here in LA for sure. That's
cool, man.
Nice.
That's cool. So I first saw Taijon on a TikTok, and he was rocking his I want to say it was an Underdog apron or vest. It was one of the two.
You didn't even have the apron yet.
Yeah, it was a vest then, and I was like, oh, this dude's rocking the Underdog vest. I'm gonna hit him up, and then I saw his content, and I was like, yo, this dude's killing it. So yeah, man, you're doing amazing things over there with the content and everything. Well, that's what I see. I don't see your dog training stuff, but as far as like with clients, but your content is amazing, man.
Thank you.
Can you tell us a little bit about,
So I was inspired. The whole reason I'm here in LA is interesting. I had to drop off Vic Blends, which is a barber from Atlanta. He goes around the city giving away free haircuts. So the reason that I even did free dog training is because I saw his concept, where he basically would go stand along the Atlanta Beltline and try to give out a free haircut. And I took it for dogs. It's nothing, I like to pay homage where inspiration comes from, and it came from him. And the rest is history. So I was doing free dog training at the park. Even though I was busy with dogs already, it wasn't that I didn't have a business that was doing very well. It was more so I wanted to start. The truth is I wanted to see how I could be more impactful. Got out there, did it, and it seemed like it was a great response. It was also a great time to be on TikTok. Now things change and things are really hard to go viral, but right time, right place, right concept, and then the rest is history.
Yeah, I love Vic, bro. I think he's killing it.
Yeah,
I love looking at. Have you ever seen? Vic?
I follow Vic.
Okay, yeah. He's killing it. I think that's awesome, man. Yeah, I didn't see too many dog trainers doing that. I think you were probably one of the first ones that I saw.
Yeah,
doing the free dog training stuff. What was some of the things that that you encountered the most when it came to running into people out there?
I think the common denominator with folks and their dogs is that they don't know how to lead their dog. They don't know that their dog is not equipped to be making the best decisions in our world. I think a lot of people give the dog a little bit too much control too soon.
Right.
It's like giving the keys to your car to your toddler. It's like, why would I let this toddler drive me around the city? So for some reason with dogs, people don't think like that. So common denominators, people can get their dog to stay in a position, whether it's by walking by my side, sit down, whatever. Just a lack of communication. As you know, you have to have crystal clear communication with animals for them to understand. It needs to be predictable. It needs to be controllable. And a lot of people don't stay with it or stick with something that makes sense to them.
Right.
One of the first videos I saw of yours was you were in a park and you had a sign, I believe, free dog training, and a couple had walked by and their dog was pulling them across the field. I feel like that's a very common issue that you see in public. People whose dogs are just taking them everywhere. What is the most common issue that you've run across when you do your free dog training in public? And my second question would be, how many people refuse the help before you finally get someone who actually wants it?
It's funny. I'm going to start off with the refusal because we went to, before LA, we went to Austin. And Austin's supposed to be like this whole nice town. That's where I got the most no's. Like people just straight up said no. We're going to get on average about 4 to like 8 no's before yes. I think we want to make a video of how many people say no.
Yeah.
Because I think people don't go out there and become vulnerable because they don't like rejection. But I just straight up ask, hey, I'm out here. I'm giving that free dog training. Do you need help? To someone that is getting pulled across, this, like it's hard to deny it.
Right.
It's more so sometimes people on their phone, avoidant. But yeah, the most common issue that I'm seeing is that people don't know how to use a leash.
Yeah.
They don't know when to use a leash, how to use it. I think it is a core foundation, like a core piece of owning a dog is how to use the leash.
Right.
Yep. I think just from talking to you earlier, I think that we, as dog trainers, at least me, I tend to overdo things sometimes. And so one thing that I did want to talk to you about was us dog trainers, we go a lot on like markers, and this is like the science of the dog training. And this is something that I've been on the last couple of days because I seen Robert Cabral post something that said there's no place in science has no place in dog training. And it was interesting to me because after that, another trainer, he's like, hey, can you review this video and see what you think about my markers or something like that. And I saw the demeanor of the dog, and I was like, well, look, before even that, I want to let's talk about like the demeanor of the dog. Forget about the markers. Like, are you having is a dog having a good time, or is he confused, or what is he? When it comes to pet dog clients, do you go deep into all that, or is it like just put on your leash, this is how you're going to correct the dog, say good or say no, whatever? How do you do it?
I try to be as methodical as possible, but treat it like it's a 5th grader. So with the parents or the owners of the dog, I try to treat it like a 5th grader. So I try to keep it dumbed down, but I don't think humans or animals do well with gray areas. So I try to be like, hey, it needs to be like this and nothing else. But I know when I say that, people are still going to do a little bit less than what I say. So for example, something that's a little bit excessive, but I say is never feed your dog from a bowl. Right? But if I were to say majority of your meals need to be hand-fed, it would turn into half of the meals being hand-fed. So it's like I almost have to take that extreme so that people do the majority. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So I almost have to say do more than what I expect for them to do maybe a little bit less than my expectations.
Shoot for the moon, end up in the stars.
Exactly.
Like that. Yeah.
That's the first time I've heard that. That's good.
So when I'm training dogs, it's very simple for me. Hand feed. You do need to have some clarity and communication. You don't want to speak too much. Let's try to get the dog to do it on its own for a bit. And then let's try to show the dog so that it's motivated. I don't like to create flat dogs. And there are some dogs that need to be flattened out. Don't get me wrong. But for the most part, I try to create a dog that is happy and to do it. But if you have a 3-year-old husky that's biting their owner, the dog needs to be a little flattened out.
Right.
The dog does need to know that they're not in control of things and that they need to respect their owner. So that's my approach to dog training. The history of how I've learned how to train dogs. I've worked for 2 dog training companies, franchises that were pretty much show the dog how to do it. No food, no nothing. I felt like I don't work for free. Dogs shouldn't. They should at least work towards something they enjoy. So then I reached out. Shout out to Garrett from American Standard. I know a lot of trainers probably think he's funny, but I think that he has been a great inspiration for me because that led to me learning about Bart and Michael Bellin's program, Napo Po, and then after that, that's kind of how I'm here. Chris and Jacqueline from Canine Logic. I went to their school, learned more about how to get more out of pet dog training. How do you guys feel about all the seminars and education that's kind of like being flooded in the market right now for dog trainers?
I feel like it can be very beneficial, but I also feel like some people get stuck in the one system of training or one style of training, and then they try to only do that one thing where there's of course, there's multiple ways to get to one destination. But I think it's good to maybe broaden your horizon a little bit to different styles of training instead of just sticking to one thing. My whole approach to dog training is eat the meat and spit out the bones. You're not going to like everything from everybody that you learn. But I think it could be dangerous to go to a seminar and only want to do that with every single dog that comes across your way, because it might work with one, but it may not work with another. And that's just my opinion.
Yeah, I think I mean a couple things. First off, if I'm not continuing seeking knowledge, then I'm gonna basically flatline. I'm not gonna move forward. So I'm always looking for who does it better. Now, as far as going to seminars and whatnot, I think that one of the biggest mistakes that I have done in the past was, attending a seminar and then wanting to switch completely how I trained. And then it wasn't me anymore. You know what I'm saying? So I almost like lost touch with my own spin or style on it, on how I do dog training. And I had success before that. So the reason why I changed it was, I don't know, maybe because that name was bigger in the industry and I wanted to, I viewed that name as somebody who I wanted to become one day. And I was miserable for like 3 months, man. It wasn't fun to train my dog. And as soon as I switched back to how I was doing things, I started having fun again. So I made a post today about that. Like, don't go to seminars and then decide to just switch everything that you're doing, because you're going to lose yourself. You still got to have that part of you. I could explain to you, hey, this is how I would do it, but then somehow it's going to become your own of how you do it. It's not going to be exactly how I've been doing it. And that's fine, because we're all different and dog training is an art. So your art is going to be different than my art. So that's how I see it. But I believe that it is very important to continue your education, keep getting out there, keep trying to learn, even right now, there's the whole pure positive thing going on. I want to see what they're doing. I want to see if they're fixing aggression with just that. And if I could take something from it, all right, let's try it,
Yeah. I think my opinion is that the education is good for it to get out there. I think this is the only industry where we don't have standards on what things are. So a group of people trying to create standards is great. It actually is great for regulation. It's great for what is going to come, because it seems like people are going to want to regulate as it should be. So if we can all create standards where we all can agree on basic foundational education, then the industry can progress. I also think it's important to keep the integrity of being a teacher and coaching other people. And it's also great for you to go out and accomplish things. Like Oscar obviously is well accomplished. So I value his opinion on my dog. So you have to ask yourself, whoever you're learning from, like, if I'm going to sport dog trainer, have they won? Have they trialed? Yeah. If I'm going to a pet dog trainer, have you done anything obedience wise that is going to be beneficial for dogs? And one thing I really hate, and I been thinking about, is that people say that obedience doesn't fix behavioral issues. Really? People say that. Like, they really believe that obedience doesn't fix behavioral issues. So if I have a reactive dog and it learns to walk on the leash and it learns that there's a consequence for reacting and it's very well communicated, it's not going to help. Of course it is. Mm-hmm. The dog is now going to make better judgment calls.
Yeah.
So I just don't understand this whole thing where obedience doesn't solve behaviors. I get that a place command is not going to solve aggression, but I think that's the extreme. Mm-hmm. What's y'all viewpoint on that?
You can go ahead, bro.
I think obedience is going to help you manage a lot of behaviors. I don't think it's going to fix. Like, there are some behaviors you just can't fix. I tell a lot of my clients, I have a aggressive dog. I have an American Pit Bull Terrier. That is a behavior problem. Am I going to be able to fix her dog aggression? No, but I can manage it through obedience. And that's my stand on it. Being able to manage, like, I had someone tell me, you teaching your dog to focus heal past its reactive triggers is not solving the problem. I said, no, it's not fixing the issue, but did my dog react? No, because it has something else to focus on. Did that help the owner? Did that help me? Yes, big time. Did it stop a potential fight? Yes, it did. Did the obedience fix the behavior? Did it fix the aggression? Did it fix the activity? No, but it helped avoid it.
But what is fixing?
Right, exactly.
I think fixing is, in my opinion, changing the way the dog views whatever issue that another dog, right? So, for example, if I taught my dog how to heel next to me, before I would always say, you're not correcting him for reacting, you're correcting him because he left the heel position, right? And that's something that I feel like it's used a lot. All right. So, however, through rewards, like for example, my dog, look, like I have something that's of value. And that's the first thing that I think we need to do is create some sort of value, and nobody does it. And it's hard to do it, especially when we're working with pet dogs, because they don't have the same time and, you know, the attention to detail that we have. However, say you did build enough equity for whatever you have, and the dog looks at another dog, he's about to react, you see it when he's about to react, and you click or you yes, and you pay him for that. Naturally, what would that tell you? That you're rewarding him for that, right? For viewing that. However, if you do that enough times, now the dog's going to see that, and what is he going to do? He's going to anticipate that you're going to reward him. Right now, if you had a behavior already instilled in him, like a focus heel, and he knows that also pays him, or just a contact heel, he'll look at that dog. He might come right back to you and start offering, anticipating the reward that might come, right? So now I feel like you're kind of changing the way the dog views
counter conditioning.
The way the dog views the issue. Now, can you correct them for it? 1,000%. You can also correct that dog for looking at that dog or whatever. So there's a couple ways to go about it, and depending on the client and depending on the dog is going to decide, in my opinion, what way we're going to take.
I agree. I think that it's very principle I think of when I think of behaviors, that energy can't be destroyed, it can only be transferred. So when you're talking about fixing behaviors, it can only be transferred. The dog likes to look, lock, and load and launch on other animals. Mm-hmm. So all we have to do is interrupt as early as possible, and we have to transfer that energy into something else.
Right.
That's what we're doing as dog trainers. Yeah. You can't tell someone don't make this decision. You're like, all right, that decision is not the best one. You should be using this. Mm-hmm. So whether using reinforcers too, both positive and negative, you can push the dog into a wanted behavior. Right. I think that's crucial for pet owners, sport owners. The dog needs to be pushed into the right decision. Right. Kind of like shaping the child. Yeah. Hey, what time is it? The child looks at the time to do homework, right? Mm-hmm. So we ask questions, child comes up with answer by himself, right? So then now we don't have to nag them all the time.
Right. Now, let's go back to behaviors though. So if your dog knows a downstay, is that going to help him with dealing with impulse control, or just, 1,000%? Yep. If I can get my dog super amped up and then all of a sudden say down, boom, and he drops, and he cannot move now, and I could keep moving whatever I have, whatever toy I have, and he cannot move. He cannot take that toy until I tell him, okay, you can go again. That's a behavior. I taught him to downstay. So, of course, it can help. And how you implement that in your training is whether it's going to benefit you to deal with other issues that come along.
And I think they're all building blocks to a relationship.
Yep.
When your dog is able to have that much impulse control, it shows a level of respect, it shows a level of trust, and it shows a level of hope that if I do what I'm supposed to do, my partner, my teammate shows up for me and we play. The only reason it works is because the dog believes. So whether you're using whatever, food, toys, tools, the dog needs to believe. Right. I agree though. I personally think that obedience plays a crucial role in changing behaviors. And my clients, they've seen it. I'm here because I had to train Vic's dog. It's a UK bully. Not a UK, XL bully, which is banned in the UK. I wanted to ask for your opinion on that. Mm-hmm. But essentially was getting into fights with its sibling. We used obedience to help the dog to learn where it needs to be, to manage how they interact in the home. We don't leave toys on the ground. We don't do these things so that there is no more fights, right? But no one can ever guarantee that this dog instinctively likes and has a drive towards other animals is not going to try it. Right. Of course, we're going to manage it. Of course, the dog can go into a mall with a whole bunch of other people and other dogs and not react. But that's because of the obedience.
Right.
right? So that's my point on it. I think that, obedience does play a pivotal role, but what's going on with the bullies is insane. Do you guys believe that the ban is justified? What's your standpoint on the UK ban on XL bullies?
Go ahead, Ro.
I may, this is I have a controversial take on this. I feel as if, and we talked about this earlier, but I feel as if the community as a whole allows their dogs to get in these situations where the dogs are biting people and fighting other dogs for the better of the breed, my opinion, then maybe it's good that those people aren't allowed to have them. And I think because these dogs got into the hands of the wrong people, dogs are getting killed, people are getting hurt, and because of it, the government felt like it needed to do something. Now, another take on it is this is just a money grab, because you got to get the dog license if you have one. You need to get it fixed. You got to pay these fees and stuff like that when you have this dog. So it really depends on who you ask. I am not a fan of breed-specific legislation because it isn't just XL bullies. If you look at what's getting banned, it's just like the bans here. It's blockhead animals with this kind of stature and this kind of appearance. So it's bullies, it's staffies, it's some Corsos, some Mastiffs. Anything that might even remotely look like a pit bull or a bully is going to be banned in the UK starting the 1st of January.
That's crazy. And it's super subjective, the presentation or how they look. I think that's super unfair. Personally, in life, I'm not with bans on things. I am for rules where they need to be put. Like you said, kids are getting hurt. We see them online. We see people literally nagging their dog to do something. And we see them running and attacking horses. But I think that's just a sign of poor management. I think to own certain dogs, we need to make training mandatory.
I agree.
And for that to be meaningful, trainers would need to be certified by local government, and then we can see a big change, and it won't be so much about breed specifics.
Right.
And I think, like you said earlier, that the rescues are playing a big role in what's going on, labeling some dogs as, I guess, painting the picture that these dogs are not predators, right? And that they don't have a history of animal aggression. That's the problem I have as a trainer with bullies, and the people are not just bullies, bully mixes, any dog that is being discriminated against. Typically, I just feel like the rescues are setting them up for like failure.
Yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of dogs that we've come across that got, it was in a rescue and they got put with one of our clients, and they had one of them had a game pit, this dog was, as soon as it saw another dog, it would scream like how Guapo does, wanting to go after another dog, and
nothing you could do with
and she got it from a rescue, and you're just like, just because of your bleeding heart that you want to save and you want to put out this story of this dog that is in rescue now and it's going through a lot, and you're gonna place him in this situation where something really, like, he would redirect on her and bit her a couple times, and so it was a big problem, Now, where I was raised, I grew up kind of in the hood, and mostly all the dogs that we saw were some type of bully mix, pit bull bully mix, and we weren't educated on these dogs and what they were bred. We just had dogs, and we enjoyed this dog pulling me everywhere and looking cool with it. That was just part of the culture that you grew up in. So unfortunately, that has led, I believe, to a lot of bad dogs, because dogs get bred and certain traits get passed on, and that's where we're at now. I'm not trying to say that all these dogs came from the hood, but I'm just saying, like, that's how a lot of these shelter dogs end up there, because we're not educated on dogs. They don't, we don't really know. When the female comes into heat, that something can happen. Like, we were never taught that.
Essentially, it's a whole bunch of people who have loaded guns and are uneducated.
Yep.
And we have loaded guns, right? And I think that some regulation is good for that. I think that essentially we do need to have some type of rules put in play, because, to be honest, a lot of people don't need to own them.
Right.
Yeah. They don't have the time and the skill to own a dog of that magnitude. Like the bully I brought back to LA, when the Chihuahua's out, has to be muzzled. Has to be. So for people at home that have two dogs that got into an animal fight, the way I handle it is this. I want to make sure that they never get to rehearse that behavior again. So the dog was taught to be put in a muzzle if it's out around the Chihuahua. Excuse me. The dog was put in a muzzle around the Chihuahua. The Chihuahua needs a leash on. The Pitty needs a leash on. The Bully needs a leash on. And any interactions that happen, you know, there will be no fights because the dog has the muzzle on. And even if there is something, let's say worst case scenario comes off, leash is on to cut the drive of the dog before it escalates. You just made a great video on how to break up a dog fight. That's the education people need to own animals of that magnitude.
Do you think that's sustainable for them, for this family, to live like this?
Well, I'm not here. Here's the truth. I'm here to help you keep your dog alive. So I tell them, you make the choice. Do you want to keep the dog or you want to put it down? You know, I think that it either should have been, in my head, it's one family member that doesn't plan on staying in that situation for that long, like moving out on their own. So I said, yeah, it's sustainable because when you move out on your own, the dog will be still young and it's worth it. For someone that's stuck in that situation, maybe it's not. Maybe rehoming the dog to a one dog household might be better. Or, you know, maybe the Chihuahua has to go. You choose. But owning a dog is tough. And sometimes tough decisions need to be made.
1,000%. I agree with that.
You know, if your dog is biting other dogs and other people, you're going to have to get it fixed. And also, your dog has practiced the behavior.
Right.
It's kind of like getting a tattoo, right? You get a tattoo. If I want my tattoo gone, I have to get laser tattoo removal, but there's still scars. So that's what happens with a lot of these behaviors.
Right.
So
yeah, I mean, it's almost like somebody explained it to me this way a while back. It was like, so you're American. You move out to, I don't know, Thailand or somewhere where they speak a different language. You learn that language, and you never see another American again. So you don't speak English at all. You just speak this other language. And somebody comes up to you and says, "Hey, how's it going?" You think you're just gonna forget, or you're gonna go, "Hey, hello"? Like, even if it was 10 years later and you haven't said one word in English, you think you're gonna forget just like that? I don't think so. No. I think you're still gonna know some of that. Mm-hmm. So I think that there's always a possibility that one of these behaviors can come up.
100%.
I actually think that we should plan for them to come up.
Yeah.
The biggest myth about boarding trains is that we're taking your dog, we're fixing it, and we're bringing it back fixed. One, what is fixed? Two, every dog's different. Yeah. And I would argue that you needed most of the training anyways, and you created the problems that I have to fix. Mm-hmm. A lot of these aggressive dogs, people are doing things to the dog, and it's reinforcing for them, meaning the dog wants to do it more.
Yeah, I think that people, before they even send their dogs to a boarding train, they have to make the decision of like, I am going to shift. I am going to be okay with this dog coming up to me, wanting me to pet him and not pet him. Like they got to, and I think that's the hardest thing. I had a client, he wanted one of those alibi or whatever those called, these big old dogs from, I think Armenia or something like that. And I'm like, bro, you could, like, you can't even handle your Corso. I'm like, and he's not even, you know, I'm like, and you bring this dog in? I'm like, you're going to have some problems. I'm like, he's like, well, you need to help me with my Corso. I'm like, I did. I was like, but you don't want to change the way you're doing certain things.
It has to be, good habits have to be installed. And also our job as trainers is making sure that it's easy to do it every day.
Yeah.
Right. So in my opinion, it's making sure they're set up to have the schedule. I'll literally sit down and help my clients with a routine, whatever's holding you back. Right. I just can't do it all for you.
Right.
Some crazy clients I've had ask me, hey, can I hire a dog walker? You train them on all this and they interact. I'm like, no, because what about when you want to have the dog and you want it to do something?
Right.
Dogs are relationship animals. They want a relationship.
Yeah. And like I told him, we talk about it all the time. You know, your son might view you a certain way than how he views his mom. And depending on who instills, the style of discipline that each one has, he might view you a little different. He might respect one a little bit more than he respects the other one. You know, so, and I think it's the same thing with dogs. I mean, we see it all the time. Oh, he's fine with my wife or he's fine with my husband, but he's not fine with the other one. They don't listen. Well, because you're obviously not keeping up with the same exact rules and structure, you know?
And dogs need patterns.
1,000%.
They don't have the pattern.
Creatures of habit.
It doesn't learn. So I think that when it comes down to how we train these owners, we have to set them up for success. We have to actually account for all the little marginal errors that can happen. Like
Right.
what's going to happen when they're in the elevator and a dog, we ask them to down and then the elevator opens up, right?
Yeah.
So all of these things need to be conditioned to the dog.
Yep.
And that's our approach with dog training in Atlanta. Is we don't do that many dogs, but we make sure we create a dog that is sustainable for your life.
Right.
And we get, like, this bully case was pretty tough. We get some hard dogs. One question I got, actually, speaking about rescues, is how do you guys integrate a rescue or a foster into your family? What's your approach to adding dogs to the pack?
I mean, obviously, you have to see at the pack dynamic and who is the dog in there that, you know, and how they interact. And when you bring that one, I would definitely do it outside of the home first, and maybe take them on a walk and see how they interact. And then you're gonna see what issues you're gonna have inside the house. You know, obviously there has to be boundaries of like, hey, if you're gonna be petting this dog, make sure this one knows that it's not his turn. It's gonna be this dog's turn, and you could take turns with each dog, and they have to view you as the main person there calling the shots. And I think that's the hardest part when you bring in a new dog. If one of the dogs there feels like he's leading the pack, he's going to be checking that dog, making sure that he establishes himself as the main one. You know, and I do see that a lot. And, you know, a lot of people, they'll bash, like they'll talk about, you know, Cesar Millan and how he spoke a lot about, you know, being the pack leader and this and that. But it really does come down to that. I mean, you see it all the time. If you're around, nothing, they're all good. And all of a sudden you leave the equation and you leave them alone, they're gonna become what they become. And if there's two males there, and you know, if there was a female there and she was in heat, I guarantee you those two males will probably end up fighting.
Well, it's like in any like endeavor, there is a leader, and if this person calls the shots, right? So in dog training right now, people are arguing that alpha dominance pack leader. I think those are all trigger words that the force free community and like positive only trainers are using to like put us up against each other. But the truth is there needs to be someone saying this is how it's going to go and this is how it's not going to go, right?
Yep.
If that's not there, then they're going to decide. So it's not a matter of that you need to. Should you be the pack leader? You should be there to make decisions for your dog. It has the brain of a toddler. It cannot be making decisions.
Right.
I agree with you. So that's my point of view on that. What do you think, Ro?
What was the question again?
So we were asking, how do you introduce a rescue or a foster into the family?
Into the family or with other dogs?
Both, actually. What's your perspective on that?
Into the family, then it would just be, you know, if you're going to a foster, then bring the family to the foster. See if wherever they're meeting the dog, to see if they interact, if the dog has any behaviors with maybe small children, because a lot of dogs don't know what a small human is. They see a small human, they think it's not a human. So if you're introducing the family to a dog, then bring the family with you when you go to find these dogs that you're looking for. Introducing a dog into the family with other dogs, I would take the same approach. Take them on a walk. Let them get to know each other from a distance first. Just being in the same vicinity, knowing there's another dog there. A dog can smell another dog across this room. They don't need to get right next to each other to smell them. I don't need to get in front of the dog's face and stick my hand in his face for the dog to smell me. The dog, they can smell each other. They can smell us. Once they've gotten a little bit more comfortable, sometimes what I'll do when I have boarding trains is I'll just leave one in the crate while the other ones get to run around. They can smell each other, kind of get to know each other like that. I'll maybe spend a day or two of them not meeting at all, just being in the same area in the crate or in the dog run next to each other, somewhere where they're not going to get hurt. That way I can see how this dog is reacting. Do they want to play? Are they hackles up? Are they insecure? Are they running into the corner trying to get away from everybody? That way you kind of have an idea of how this dog is going to respond when they're out of the crate. And then when I do introduce them, there's no tension. It's not on leash. If one dog is going to be on leash, it's going to be the old dog. So the new dog can get away if it feels like it needs to, unless that dog has behavioral issues. But there's just so many variables, really, like we can go into. But the most basic thing for me would be on a leash, walking without them actually getting to interact with each other, and then maybe having one in a crate or behind some kind of barrier where they can smell each other without fighting. I think that would be the best for me personally.
That should also work when friends are trying to meet other friends' dogs. we have normalized dogs meeting head on leash, and as we can see clip after clip how it leads to fights. I think one alternative to that is if you have a dog, let's just go for a walk together. Let's see how the dogs do with some form of structure, right? Let's not take the training wheels off before we've seen proof that the dogs can coexist normally.
Right.
So if you have a dog that you're trying to introduce your dog to, take them on a walk. Maybe you guys both need to be able to call your dogs, right? I personally like having a drag line. Like let's say the dog, we don't know. So it's better we have a line on the dog so we can pull them away when we see things escalate. So that's kind of how I encourage people to meet other dogs in general. When bringing in a foster or a rescue, a key thing is just managing boundaries too. Learning the new dog's boundaries, what makes them feel comfortable. Dogs love to create and protect space, right? So reading how they do that, tight spaces, dogs can get nasty. If you've only had one dog, you never had the opportunity to see how your dog reacts to certain things.
Right.
So watching out those tight spaces, watching how they react in the crate, I think dogs can be a little jealous sometimes, like you said, petting one dog at a time and letting the other dog know, hey, not right now, right? Because sometimes they're needy and demanding.
Right.
Humans create very needy and demanding pets.
1000%.
And we just need to make sure that everybody's boundaries are respected. Just like in any friendship, relationship, we all have boundaries. Can't cross this line.
And I would hire a dog trainer even for one lesson. Like, hey, I'm gonna bring a new dog in. Can you come and see if there's anything that you see that could cause issues? I was walking with my wife, and we walk by this dog park, and I see this dog seeing another dog that's about to come in. He's walking down the street, and I see the way he's acting, going back and forth. And I tell my wife, I said, look, there's going to be a fight right now. And this owner still, even though they see, and the owner of the dog that's inside is just hanging out watching. He's not putting a stop to it. He's not saying, you know what, let me put my dog on leash so we could do this the right way. No, this dog is running the fence. It looks like he exercises this somewhere else as well. And then as soon as this dog comes up, this dog just like jumps on him, like literally like jumped on him and like growled, got all over it. And I'm just like, I can't believe they didn't see this coming. Like, but I get it. They're not dog people. They're not us. They haven't been around.
Oscar.
And I'm just but I was just like, and as much as I wanted to like go in there and say something, like, hey, like this is gonna happen. Like a lot of people will get offended by that. If I'm talking bad about their dog, like, dude, your dog's an asshole. Like we literally got a bad review because one of our trainers called the dog a jerk. So to me, it was like, I'm not gonna overstep. I'm not gonna be that guy where they're like, oh, he just thinks he knows everything. No. So, but I told my wife, I said, look, there's gonna be a dog fight right now. And sure enough, they went at it, and then they separated them. And the guy puts his dog on leash. Finally, I'm like, bro, you could have done that from the beginning because you knew what was gonna happen. Your dog's an asshole. Yeah. Like, put a leash on your dog.
It's not like it's gonna change this time. Dogs that are reactive, it's not the first time. The first time is like a bark or pulling hair up on the neck. That's the first time.
Yeah.
Then every time it gets worse because the dog learns they can get better at it, and it also becomes more reinforcing. I got away with it before. I thought it's normal.
Yep. And I see. I see it coming right now. Moses is going to be 10 months or something like that. And I see the way he's interacting with Guapo, my older one, and he's bugging him a little bit. Like if he doesn't have something in his mouth, he's just bugging him, And I could see it like changing. It's about to shift pretty soon. And that's another thing that people need to realize. Like, hey, it depends on the dog's age. How it's acting right now does not mean it's going to be like that in 4 months when he hits that stage, that maturity stage. They change. Yeah. And so, and I see it. And so now I got to think, okay, how am I going to stop this from happening? Well, first off, I'm going to put a leash on this dog every time I bring him out. And when he is getting like that, I'm going to let him know, hey, you can't do that, you know? So it's important for us to read body language and read and don't just let the dog and see what happens.
I know there's a ton of like body language experts on dogs recently.
Oh my goodness!
Everybody wants to be a body language.
Oh my god, bro! Expert. Don't even come at me with that. I'm literally working my dog with treats, bro, and he's licking his lips, thinking he's about to get a treat, and they're saying that he's stressed out.
Same thing happened to me with my dogs. Like they're also licking their lips out of anticipation of getting food. I think that they're kind of taking that out of the equation as to why dogs lick their lips, because I've been working the dog, maybe expectations.
Listen, bro. No matter what we do, they're gonna like. There's literally a page just talking about other balanced dog trainer videos, and they dissect the video. Bro, if you want to find some shit, you're gonna make people believe whatever you want them to believe. I could look at your pure positive training video and let you know exactly what issues you're gonna cause by what you're doing if I try hard enough.
Yeah, it's mind blowing, and I think that body language should be taught. We should be able to. I think for you're asking what's something that people want, that as you create this new online course, maybe you can come up with a body language breakdown, or maybe you can come up with how to greet your dog, etc. Because this is education that people need. But I also think it can't become marketing techniques from other people.
Right.
Hey, the dog, look at this dog. One, if I have a dog that is very comfortable going after other animals, maybe when it looks at an animal, it should be a little concerned.
Right.
Maybe it looks and then it sees it and it's like, nope, I'm not going to do it. I know better. I get corrected.
The risk reward. Yep.
Yeah. And it's time to be transparent about what corrections look like, because the truth is,
Let's go into that a little bit.
yeah, I personally think that when you're dealing with these cases, I personally think slip lead is the best way to go with animal aggression. I don't like attaching e-collars, prong collars to that, because those are tools that you might use for obedience. And in the beginning, at least, I think to manage situation, slip lead, obviously going up, cutting off oxygen, is going to make the animal prioritize what is the most important, survival, right? And I think that's how I approach it. Then obviously you must replace that desire to go after another animal and to focus on something else, right? So it's kind of like an alcoholic. When they want alcohol, they have to focus and change the energy into something else. So that's my approach with it. And of course, strict management afterwards. Don't let the dog get another bite in. The dog gets another bite and it's like reinforcing, like you said, you're never going to forget English, even if you didn't speak 10 years and you're in Thailand.
Right.
What's y'all's standpoint?
I mean, yeah, I agree. I think that, we do need to be a little bit more, open about how we do things. But I do feel like we're very gun shy, because even though we know we might be saving this dog's life, we could also be messing up our life, because there's people out there literally looking for any excuse to come after you.
Yeah.
And so it is a little bit like, all right, I'll make sure that, with my private clients, I tell them exactly what we're going to do, how we're going to fix this. Sometimes it could look a little ugly, but that is what is required for that. Would they need to go through something like that? And it's fine if you don't want to do it that route. But some of these people cannot do, and they cannot deal with dogs the way you can, by moving them around, by playing, musical chairs, moving dogs around, and they're not going to be able to be clicking and feeding and this and that every single day of this dog's life. They just can't do that. That's not how they operate. That's not, they have a job. They work overtime. She's 70 years old. She cannot do that, And so as dog trainers, I'm going to do whatever I have to do in order to save this dog's life, so that this family could enjoy
That's what we
their
get
life
hired
together.
We don't get hired to please other folks. I agree. I think a big problem too is we're so worried about what colleagues had to say. But if we all came together, we've seen how many dogs are transformed from these tools, and we have our own studies of these tools. Then now, you don't have these groups or collectives of people trying to call everything abusive. I've had people say that hand feeding is abusive. Hand feeding. You go to work, you get a job, you get paid 2 weeks later. That's almost the same thing to me, because you use that money to buy food and to basically survive.
I mean, putting a dog in a crate is abusive. Even though if you did get in a car accident and he flies out the window, he's going to die. But putting him in a crate is abusive.
Well, we're in a crate right now, Oscar. We're in your workplace.
So I don't understand. I mean, I could already, bro, I call them out. I could see them and be like, yeah, I block them. I block a lot of people, that come at me like that. But, I think that what you were saying is very important. And I think that we need a safe space where we could actually let people know, hey, this is how it's done. That's why I look up to people like Robert Cabral and Larry Crone and, a lot of people that even people in the industry might not respect. I always go back. I mean, like we were talking about earlier, I see Tom Davis. All of you guys have probably seen Tom Davis on YouTube and everything. And many people I've heard in the past talk about his techniques. And then I go to the comments and I see how many people are happy and, saying how he helped them with whatever he's working on at that point. I go, look, he is, adding something to the dog culture, and he's helping people deal with their dogs. You do the same thing.
That's all that matters.
So to me, at the end of the day, that is what matters. Now, if you want to go out and say, well, he's, they're overcorrecting dogs and this and that, the results are in the pudding. What are people saying? And people are happy with the results. That is.
And dogs are not getting euthanized.
And dogs are not getting euthanized.
So I would argue that the tools are pivotal in the dog not getting euthanized. It's crucial for the dog to exist. I think people are happy with it, and you ultimately have to let people make the choice for them.
Some people would rather euthanize than to
Fix it.
correct the dog and fix it.
That is where the extremes can take us.
That is crazy.
The extremes can take us to, hey, this dog you shouldn't even be able to domesticate a dog. That's
right.
The truth is, if we all love dogs, we would let them be in the wild. Right? Owning a dog is very selfish. I tell my clients this. Owning a dog is very selfish. If you really love the dog, could just be right now doing whatever it wants.
Right.
But you're domesticating the animal for yourself. So I actually think about this all the time. It's important for us to realize that me taking this dog, making it a pet, and making it do what I needed to do is selfish. I think it's
for us. Yeah. I mean, we enjoy the dog.
We enjoy the dog.
Yeah.
Of course, I tell them, make sure there's an outlet for the dog. Make sure the dog gets a moment to be a dog. But for the most part, you're structuring this dog to become something that is in your family.
Right.
So
but even then, people think that just because we add obedience that they don't get to be dogs. Bro, my dogs get to be dogs 95% of the time. They're literally in the yard hanging out, playing with their chew toys that I get them, and they're just hanging out. But people don't see that.
Yeah,
I love
those. They should see it. That's
they literally, I know, but what is it going to do? You're going to put a video of them just playing there? I mean, I should probably just, look, this is what my dog does, and I'll show the camera, and he's just there gnawing on his bone. But it's like, what do you guys think? That I have him focused healing all day? Every time I take him on a walk?
Dogs are not supposed to be robots.
Like, no shit.
Yeah.
We know that. Bro, my dog experiences more freedom than
Most dogs.
most dogs.
That's the point I like to make too. I love to tell folks, you don't want to use this tool, but this tool is going to give your dog more freedom. It's going to give you more freedom. So you can pick however you want to do that. At first, I was anti-e-collar with my dog that I had in training. The trainer brought it around. I took it out. I started using it, and I could walk my dog without a leash. Not to saying that that's what I encourage people to do, but it's nice to know that relationship-wise, I was able to get to that point.
Right.
Of course, now when I'm at that point, I can maintain it with, hey, using the ball, using the dog's food. But the whole point is we have to get there. I think ethical e-collar training needs to be put out there.
I agree.
And I also think I want to do a better job of showing them, hey, this is what a correction looks like. It's not, the dog's not shut down. I have dogs take corrections, tail wagging, tongue out, ready to go again. And I've seen them in your dogs.
Yeah, as long as the dog understands that it's fair, right? I think a lot of the mistakes too is that a lot of the corrections we see on social media, there's a lot of emotion from the handler, and it makes it look like a lot of anger, a lot of frustration, and we all get frustrated, right? But the videos we see, you get somebody who's mad or angry, and they correct the dog with the prong collar, or they correct the dog with the e-collar.
We saw the dog from Riverside this past week, the police officer.
Yeah, exactly.
What is your take on that?
So I watched that video and I saw the full clip. The full clip is not really out circulating. The full clip, the cop brings the dog out the car, and the dog is already anticipating the bite. It's like in sport work. The dog's already anticipating the bite, and since he's being held back, he looks back to the handler twice. The third time, he just so happened to redirect onto him. People don't understand that these are tough dogs. Meaning, what does tough mean? Meaning they understand pictures, anticipating, and they want the reward. That dog wanted his reward before he was ready to get it. They prepare and train for these moments, but at the same time, the dog needs a correction. and there was no leash on. I did not see e-collar on. And most people don't understand is with these dogs, e-collars might push them into drive.
The prong might do the same, yeah.
There's different types of dogs out there. There are people who like to skydive. There are people who like tattoos. There are people who chase adrenaline, which means scary things feel great. Yeah. There are dogs where scary things feel great. So that dog seemed like what we would consider an endorphin dog. A dog where maybe since there's no prong and e-collar on, the dog, that might push him into bite mode more.
Yeah.
So I think the dog getting slammed might have been necessary for that communication because there's no tools. But I disagree maybe with the punching. I think a jab back to the car. I think in the moment, correction happens. Get your tools on and get back to it. Put your tools on so you can do the job. And then you also have to serve and protect the community. I question if the dog was necessary in the first place, in my opinion. It looked like the other cop was pretty chill, asking the guy, do you have a taser?
Yeah, I mean, maybe he was taking it as a training opportunity.
Yeah.
Maybe.
That's what it looked like.
And, he was probably like, well, this is a picture that I could show, and he could probably train from it. And maybe it'll be a good learning experience. I mean, maybe. Who knows? We don't know the full situation of how it went down. We don't know the priors of this dog, whether he already bit a few other people before. So, and it looked like he was handling, sometimes you'll see them come out and they're, they have harnesses on sometimes even and all that. He had him from the collar. I mean, he obviously didn't want to get bit. Yeah, he didn't want to get bit. So he did that. Now, do I think that maybe he got a little bit frustrated? 1,000%. I mean, that happens sometimes.
His mouth was on his hand.
Yeah, it happens. And, sometimes we get our emotions come in and that is part of that is part of life. Like that happens sometimes.
Does he deserve to be canceled? In my opinion, no. We don't know the history of the dog. No. The dog could have redirected on other handlers. He might be the handler that's trying to fix the problem. Yeah.
Listen, bro, and let's be honest. I mean, we have been around. I've been around for a while. I have seen some really, really bad corrections. That was not a bad corrections compared to some of the corrections I have seen before.
Yeah, and
you know what I'm saying? So, and the thing is that a lot of dog trainers will go out there and bash about what could have been done better. I could go into detail about oh, he should have done this. Listen, first of all, they're playing for real.
Exactly.
We're playing for sport. You're not there. He's there.
In the heat of the moment, you made a valid point that this could have been a learning or prep work for something that's serious.
1,000%.
Something serious means that this dog needs to perform, or else this person doesn't come home to their family.
And it's better to find out there, than maybe something where, like you said, they probably have the guy. And again, we can't see past that guy, or whatever. But we don't know what the issue was there. Maybe this guy had priors that required that type of pressure. But yeah, we don't know the full extent of it. Now, for me, if I was looking at it from a sports side, which is not real, I would say, well, what can we do to work on this issue? So what is a exercise that we could work with this issue that this dog is having right now, and that's where my training, where I feel like I would want to dissect that and work that dog in those types of scenarios. It will take some time to work on and fix or whatever. And then we would still have to see if it translates into the real world.
The real deal, because the dog knows when it's real, knows when their handler's sweating, it could hormones.
Be there's so many things that dogs see that we don't see.
Smell,
again, I'll go back real quick. I'm doing an exercise right now for my French ring too, where it's called the scene retrieve, and you bring a glove out of your pocket, you drop it, the dog picks it up, and he brings it back to you. He comes in front, right? I've been working on this a lot, that now he's anticipating, even if I'm not going to do that exercise, I say OPA, and he thinks he's going to do that exercise. Why? Well, because maybe the way I'm moving, the way I'm doing certain things that he's reading that are causing him to anticipate getting into that position, So again, we don't know this dog. We don't know this officer. I know I've heard he has many years doing this. He's not new, and this dog did not give two shits about that correction.
Yeah, so I think that's also a valid point. Was it a correction? My question in my mind was, did the dog perceive it as a correction? And I don't think so.
It didn't look like he took it as a correction.
So it's what we think is a correction. The dog didn't even take as a correction.
And you know, going back, and I'm sure I've mentioned this before. That is our job too. Away from us changing the subject as trainers, is to see what this dog takes as a correction from its owner. You know, if we go back to Vic, well, maybe when you say no, that dog goes, "Oh shoot." But then if he says no, it's like, nah, I don't. It doesn't mean the same thing.
There's no common denominator.
You know what I'm saying?
Empowered.
But maybe if he stomps his foot, maybe to the dog, maybe that's a correction.
Yeah.
And so at that point you go, well, I know how I would do it. I know what marker I would use. Should he do it that way, or should he use the way that you see as a trainer that the dog took as a correction? For me, I would say use whatever the dog saw as a correction, use that as your correction, because he took that as a correction. If that's a stomp, if that's moving towards the dog, if that's whatever it is, use that as your correction.
It's gonna be real hard to get rid of those habits out of owners. They've been doing it and rehearsing it for a while. So I just want to make sure that they can stomp. I just don't want them yelling, right?
That's fine.
Because I feel like yelling, which you're creating a dog that starts to listen at certain parameters,
Right.
Like you're conditioning that. But I agree, trying to like clean up all of their dirty habits when it comes to that is like, hey, say no, make sure you use the tool or whatever you're supposed to use, and let's just move forward that way. But yeah, back to the Riverside situation. I don't think it's fair for the police officer to be removed. I don't think it's fair for that dog, because that's a tricky dog, because from the dog's perspective, I wonder if it was a correction.
You know what? I don't even think they realize what they're doing sometimes, you know, because they're so high in drive that they don't even realize what they're doing sometimes. And you know what I'm saying? And then it's unfair for us to really correct them for something that we have created. Like that dog has probably gotten so many bites, going out and so many bites. I mean, before the department probably even got this dog, he was getting a shit ton of bites. You know what I'm saying? So now he's like, yo, this is changing now. This is, you know, I'm not allowed to get a bite, because sometimes they could bring them out and they don't get a bite. So the dog has to learn how to go through that, you know?
Yeah, it's like getting out the car and going straight on the field with sport dogs, you know?
Bro, they
always go straight. Yeah, you always take your dog, put it in kennel, drive to a field.
Remember the picture, you know?
So we had to replace things. Maybe, like you said, I think that might be a great way to condition the dog going forward. Get out the car, no bite.
Right.
Just playing with the dog.
Right.
I don't see that many police canine handlers playing with their dogs.
Yeah, I think through play, that's how I would approach it. And I think I talked about it with somebody else. I said through play, I would work on those impulses. I would, or shoot, even in a training scenario, say the guy is there. He comes out, he turns the dog on. Maybe he drags the dog all the way to the bite, or maybe the bad guy comes all the way and gives him a bite in place.
Yeah.
So it's breaking the chain of expectation, what that dog is expecting, where you can create new habits or new pathways that the dog can take and he sees as options.
There's too much hope for the man and too much power in the reward that the dog doesn't believe that their own handler matters. So that's what it seems like.
So, and again, I don't want you guys to take this as, this is just me thinking out loud. That does not, I don't know this dog. I don't know anything about this. So don't think it as like, oh, I would do better
No, I think in the moment, a lot of us might have done the same. Truth.
Yeah.
It's not necessary. Like in the heat of the moment, dog redirect on you. You're going to tell them no, and you're going to move them away from you.
Unless you've been in that situation, you're
going to move the dog away from you.
1,000%.
Yeah.
No one's going to take the bite and say, I'm going to think about this later.
Right.
So kudos to that officer. I would say, he probably reflected and is working on doing better.
Right.
I just think maybe the way we're developing dogs, also always getting them to the man, always biting, always.
Yeah, I mean, definitely.
Too much driven work without keeping things in balance is bad for any dog.
And I do think that, just my opinion, more police officers need to learn how to just play with their dog.
Yeah, it's not just
More
work.
people.
Yeah.
Pet owners too.
Yeah.
I think everyone, my biggest takeaway in this California trip, shout out to Joe Senate out in Santa Clarita, is playing with the dog.
Yep.
it can solve a lot of issues. It can also build a lot of relationship. So when I came out here, I was working my sport dog Vega with him, who is pretty dirty with outing and whatnot, and I was always trading with him. The trading was almost leading to redirection, like that police officer, where he would let go of the ball and look to my hand for another. So we had to stop trading, right? So we're using the leash, using our tools to get the dog to out. Once the dog has a little bit more faith that when he outs, he can get the ball, faith, stable. Now you can get the ball. Now he's just doing it on his own. Yeah. But sometimes you do need the pressure. You do need some assistance to help the dog make a decision. We're all under pressure. All humans are under pressure. If I don't work, I don't eat. Right? You guys have families, you don't work, you don't eat. Yep. No animals living a pressure-free life. Nah. A force-free life.
Yeah, you're doing a disservice by not adding any pressure. But with that comes hopefulness too. Yeah. Like I know that if I work hard enough, that things can happen.
Yeah, we're here in this beautiful studio because of your hard work.
Right. So to me, I'm like, people that it's a disservice to not adding pressure, because when the pressure does come, and it will, they don't know how to deal with it.
Exactly.
Freeze, flight. I tell people, if you don't teach your child how to overcome stress, when they experience stress, they shut down.
Right.
Do you want to create a dog that shuts down when they experience stress? No. What if you create a dog when they experience stress, they overcome it through obedience or behavior?
Yep. I know we got some questions. Yeah, let me see. How can I train my dog to loose leash walk, but not a focus heel and in between?
Okay. So the dog needs to have drive they need to know when to focus on you and when not to focus on you. So it's always great to train behaviors and opposites, to do what you want, also not to do what you want. So the focus heel could be great, so the dog knows when to look at you. So then now when they're not looking, you can also tell them to do what you want. Right. The way I train the loose leash walking is typically I line up against the wall. The dog needs to go through me, kind of like a tunnel, and turn and stand next to my leg. Once they know how to enter the position, then now we're building up hope to stay in the position, that it pays to stay. Just feeding the dog while it's staying, and then we can start to move, right? Then I will layer, so positive reinforcement's great to start, but the reality is in the world, you're going to have other motivators that you're competing with. So we need to prepare your dog for the inevitable correction. So then we'll layer in tools, whether that's slip, prong, e-collar, to push the dog into a wanted behavior when there is no distraction. So that when there is a distraction, I can use the tool. Now, one thing about the e-collar while we talk about it is you hear a lot of trainers talk about using it at a low level. The reality is, yes, we're using it at a low level to start, but we're progressing to moderate or levels that the dog experiences discomfort so that they no longer want to do, right? That's the truth. So when the dog understands that, we use it less. Right. And now we can reinforce them through play or food because they're making wiser choices. Right. Right. So you can get a loose leash walk with a slip, with any tool you want, but it's a matter of being consistent, the dog's understanding, and not progressing too soon. Start in the house, then you go to your front yard, backyard, and then we tell our clients mailbox to mailbox. Maybe you don't go on walks. Maybe you just do drills for 10 minutes and you go for a walk. Yep. That needs to be normalized. I think people get a dog, go for a walk. Get a dog, drill the dog, and then go for a walk. Yep. Get a dog, let it sniff, drill the dog, then go for a walk. So the dog knows at least once I go outside, it's not free game. I am putting on my work clothes. I'm clocking in. I'm doing this work, and then I have moments of releases to be a dog.
Yep.
That's my approach.
That's good. Next question. Dog is very food motivated and somewhat toy motivated. Any tips on increasing toy drive?
I think in that case, increasing the toy drive, it depends. I don't know. I think like you guys, we had to see things, but including I like the ball on a string because we can make it a little bit more alive. You can have it chase. If a dog has low toy drive, maybe you need to make it more like it's chasing prey, right? Flirt pole maybe. I don't know what dog we're looking at, but that's how we can increase toy drive is ball on a string, flirt pole, back tying.
Yep.
I think pet owners should learn more about back tying their dog. A lot of pets, when I put them on a back tie, are not comfortable. For folks at home, it's simply tying your dog up or tethering them up to a wall and them hitting the end of the line. Maybe you're playing with them. And if your dog gets flat and they don't want to play anymore, that's fine. But if you really want to build toy drive, you'll put them up. Right? So they lose access to you. They have to go in their kennel. When they come out the kennel, play again. So if the dog comes out the kennel, you're putting things out of balance to where it's always play. Now when the dog loves playing, okay, now we can balance things back out. You're not playing as much.
Cool. I think that through creating frustration, more drive can be created through some conflict. More drive comes through conflict. What does that look like? Maybe you holding your dog back. Like right now, I'll hold my ball here, and I could put my padded stick in front of my dog and not let him get this ball, and he just starts barking at it. So there's a bunch of different types of games that you can do with your dog to create more drive. But frustration, keeping them wanting the toy when you put them away will create some drive. Making sure that they get wins. Sometimes what we do is we make them miss, and it's almost like they lose hope that they could even get this toy. So make sure that you let them grab the ball on the first try sometimes, just so they have hopefulness that they are going to be able to get it. That's a big issue that I see some people do. They'll make a miss. They don't get anything, and some dogs will dip and drive instead of go up and drive. So those are a couple of things that I would do.
So key takeaways is read your dog, learn when they're doing well, and maybe that's when you let them have the toy in full. I would say put the toy on a leash or have the toy on a line, so you can take it away when they're not interested. Yep. And I think a big one is just don't leave toys on the ground.
Yeah.
Right. And go ahead.
Build some value in the toy by not letting them have it all the time.
Yeah.
Yep. And making them possessive over it. I mean, literally where they have the ball and you're trying to steal it and they're holding it, that is going to increase some drive too, because when you do take that toy from them, they're going to go, holy shit, I want that back.
Yeah.
And so through possession is another way of increasing drive.
That will get taken out of context by people. They'll be like, oh, Oscar's creating resource garden.
Oh my God.
If you have an opportunity to steal the toy away from your dog, it looks away or it lets go for whatever reason, and you steal it, I would put the toy away and then,
put the dog up.
Put the dog up.
Yeah. This is a good one. My dog keeps randomly spinning, or when giving commands, she will spin.
So things are out of balance towards spinning, and also it's like an OCD thing for dogs. Maybe that's how the dog copes with stress. I seen that. Also, healers are known for doing that. My healer spins sometimes if I'm petting the other dog. So I can tell you that's a stress management thing. What I would do for that is I would start to read the situations and study the situations where the dog is spinning to see if there's a pattern, like you said, a cue that we're doing where the dog's spinning. Another thing is having the leash on.
Put the leash on them.
Right? So that I can intervene when the dog spins and I can put them in a down. I can push them into something else. That's my approach towards it. Stop training spin. Because I think maybe the dog has been trained to spin, and start training other things more so that dog believes it pays more to do something else than to spin.
Yep. Try to keep that dog right at the threshold where you think he's about to spin, and make sure that you pay him there so that the dog just anticipates you paying instead of him having to spin. Sometimes we're working a dog, they spin, then might give him a command or something, and then we pay him anyway. So they believe that is just part of the behavior chain. Spinning is part of, eventually I will get paid if I do enough spins and they give me enough cues to sit down, whatever, I'm going to get paid. So really it depends on the dog and see if you could catch it before, but I would attach a leash to stop him when he's about to spin.
Yeah, more pets should be on leash. I'll have a slip lead, you spin, I go up on the leash. When you relax, I relax. Not adding more pressure, but I would add pressure until the dog does what I want, release, and that's it. I think over time the dog will learn. No need to be complicated. Other things that can help push the dog into wanted behaviors, a down, going onto your bed, hang out, maybe other tricks.
Yeah. Maybe they're just pushing buttons like levers, hoping that the reward is going to come at some point. That is just how some dogs operate, especially really smart dogs that, that's how they operate.
Yeah. So just keep it simple like that.
Yep. All right. Do police officers need a dog training standard too?
Well, I believe most dogs have to go through a standard
Yeah, they have a test they have to go through.
temperament test and behavior test. I do think all dog owners need more education. We were talking about it earlier. Play is something that we need to teach people how to teach. We need to teach people how to play with their dog. Because essentially you have a predator, a canine, that likes to chase prey. And if it's an intrinsic desire that we need to satisfy, or else it shows up for police officers, redirection, anticipation, for pet owners, pulling on the leash, barking, lunging, digging. So we have to learn how to play with dogs. There should be some type of standard on playing, as simple as that sounds.
Yep.
What was the question?
Do police officers need a dog training standard too?
So it's for the police officer, not for the dogs.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I do feel that they should invest into a little bit more,
Education.
From what I've seen, just from my not very extended experience with police dogs, because I already know how people are, bro. They're gonna be like, well, he's a sport dog guy, he's not a police dog guy, whatever. I do feel that, like you said, everybody could always use a little bit more, and if there is a standard of like, hey, you got to learn, XYZ before you could do this, more than just handling the dog.
Yeah.
It goes above that. It goes to caring for the dog, husbandry with the dog, playing with the dog, all that stuff. I think it couldn't hurt.
It can only be beneficial.
Now,
these guys love their dog.
Yeah. Now I'm not saying to change the whole industry. I think that I hate that. I hate when they try to put things like you have to do this. I do feel that there are some trainers out there that are involved with police dogs that are learning, and they're getting better. They're they're learning from the right people. So I think that it's moving in the right direction, I believe.
Yeah, it is, because now there's cameras. So their civilians have eyes all over. But yeah, I agree. More play, learning how to deal with redirection, learning about that tools can push your dog to do things without you knowing it. The question to ask is, if you do something to your dog and it doesn't stop it, it was reinforcing it. It's either or. Mm-hmm. So same thing with police officers. They definitely deserve the best education, because they are putting out canines to protect and serve the community.
Yep.
So playing is going to be one of the best ways to do that. Great. And maybe department should give them a budget to go to these seminars where some of the top trainers are playing with their dogs, and they have crazy issues just like their own dogs. Mm-hmm. I don't think that would hurt.
Yep. So I think that's all we got.
So the sport dog question, what is it?
Sport dog questions?
It was for last. It was because that's these guys' specialty.
Nah, bro, but we're interviewing you, bro.
Look, everything I know I learned from this guy. So
we're interviewing you. Let me see.
I just started French ring, so I'm just starting.
That's good.
Oh, welcome.
Yeah.
Let me see.
I'm only doing the sport to get better at training dogs.
You will, and it's more, and it's more of that, more of like impulses, like like that type of stuff is like the stuff that you need to learn. That you will literally see, and then you'll see certain dogs, like once you've done it enough. Like I saw his dog at a young age, and I could pinpoint this is how this is gonna go. Mm-hmm. And sure enough, at a certain age, it started shifting that way, and I said, "This is where you're gonna lose her. Mm-hmm. This is what we do now. This is how we shift." And sure enough, now we're back on track into where we were going. Mm-hmm. But if you don't see that early, you'll run into problems. Some people will be like, "I'm just gonna give my dog bites all the time." Bro, the dog bites fine. The dog has no issues. Yeah. And you're gonna give it bites nonstop.
Puppies,
and I'm not gonna teach it out until he's a year old. So you've never taught this dog to let go. Now at a year old, it's ridiculous.
We didn't even let her bite till she was a year old.
Yeah, bro, it's ridiculous.
Philosophy. I feel like you need to be teaching the dog what potential pictures are gonna look like, and it's only fair to teach the dog as early as possible without means. And basically, it's way easier to teach it when it's a puppy.
Yeah. And what's nice about it too is I'm learning more about my relationship with the dog through French ring.
Yeah,
I'm learning a lot more through it. So
yeah,
it definitely helps me out as a handler and a trainer.
All right, next question. How do you know if your dog is a good candidate for biting sports?
My experience on that is, does it bite at a young age? We see standards are Mouse, Dutch Shepherds, German Shepherds for sports. But there are some good off-breeds out there that can do bite work. Most clubs probably are not going to want to invest their hard time into it. But I think healers, Joe has a Staffordshire Terrier that's pretty sick to see. I think those dogs off breeds can do them. A better question to ask is, do you have the time to invest into bite sports? Do you have the resources? They're not cheap. And are you open-minded? Because to develop a dog that is doing bite sports is a different path than what I would consider a pretty chill pet.
1,000%.
You're creating a sports car. Do you want a sports car, or are you okay with a family car?
And let's clarify, what do you mean by does it bite at a young age? What is it biting?
I'm just saying, is it nipping?
Right.
When I had my healer at a young age, he was going after, he was nipping things, so that came natural to the dog. They're doing it because it feels good. So all I need to do is channel that into an outlet.
Exactly.
So Dutch Shepherd, Mal, you get them. You don't got to teach them to bite. They're biting. But if you have a dog that doesn't want to bite, you have to teach them to. And if you are taught something versus something you like, what do you go with?
Right.
I'm going to go with the dog that does it because they like it versus because I taught them to.
Yep.
So we'll teach dogs how to play with toys. But they still have a higher food drive than toy drive because they like the food more than playing.
Yeah, we get it all the time. Can I train my husky to do the? You could probably get a BH on them. If you want to do some bite work stuff, I probably
just come
go
do it
against
for fun.
Yeah, but even then, bro, it's like you're forcing the dog to do something that it really doesn't want to do. Yeah,
Just go let it play. Go let it pull
like
weight.
a herder wants to chase and bite.
Exactly. And that's probably one of the best answers you can give. How do I know if my dog's good for bite sport? Is it going to chase and bite a rag at a young age? Is it going to take the sport as an outlet to let out his natural genetics that he has in him, or are you doing it because you just want to be cool and do it?
Yeah.
Some dogs aren't built for it.
Yeah, I agree.
And then
And
confidence.
trainers don't want to take your lazy dog and make it into a sport dog because your time, you guys want to at least train it. Maybe someone in your club wins. That's a big win. Or seeing your team win. Like you want to see someone put in their all into something. It takes a community to raise a dog. If you see one person with one dog win any trial, it was a decoy, it was a club, it was a trainer that helped. So when you are trying to put all these resources together to win, you're not trying to waste your time on things that people are doing as dabblers.
Right. Not just that, but I just think people need to have realistic expectations, and sometimes people have unrealistic expectations and they really think they got something that they really don't. And I think that's when it gets a little bit hard because you almost got to turn down people and it makes you look like you don't want to work with them. But it's not that. It's just that you don't really see what you have.
We're just being honest to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I've seen you tell people, you want to be honest? Maybe you should think of another dog, or maybe do something else with this dog.
Yeah.
So
and don't be offended.
Try out Rally. Why not try Rally?
yeah,
out?
BH. A BH is cool.
You can try out other things. You
Yep.
don't have to only do bite sports.
Dog diving. They go do dog diving if the dog must have some drive there too to jump in. But there's other things that they can do.
Yeah.
And so but anyways, I know we're getting close to the end, and you got a long drive back, man.
33-hour drive back to Atlanta.
Guys, if you guys are in Atlanta, make sure you guys look him up. Where can they find you, brother?
At Kaizen Canine on IG. You can click the link in bio, schedule a phone call with us. What we do is focus always on improving communication. I want to say shout out to Ro. He is the man that is doing everything that you're seeing, all the lights. Shout out to Oscar. He is literally an OG in the game. He was reaching out to me when I was just starting off, and I want to say thank you. It's a full circle moment.
Yeah, bro.
I'll be back here in LA, and
Awesome, man. Well, shoot, we appreciate you hanging out, bro.
No
Thanks,
problem.
man. Thanks for stopping by. This was awesome. And guys, if you guys, make sure you guys go follow us at Elevated Canine Podcast. Subscribe, and you can follow me at Oscar Mora Canines as well as at Elevated Canine Academy.
ECA_RLG, and then Elevated Canine Media on Instagram for the podcast. And keep an eye out. We're going to be putting out a lot of content here pretty soon. A lot of some good dog training tips, not just for sport, but a lot of it is for people who've never owned a dog before. So just so you guys know, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel, follow us on Instagram. If you have any questions, please just shoot it our way. Leave a comment, leave a like, and let us know if there's anything we can help you with.
Yep.
These guys got some big things coming. Hey, we forgot to tell them.
You put us on game, bro.
Special announcement. This team is going to put out some of the best dog training content you will see. They're looking to shift. So you guys need to email them with all the problems you're having so that they can create it
Yep.
for you.
Please.
Hit us up. So, guys, thank you guys for hanging with us. Again, make sure you subscribe. And, elevate your mind.
Thank you as well. I'm sorry.
Valeria.
Valeria's here. Valeria,
everything.
my man.
Really appreciate
he just got engaged over here in his LA trip.
Shout out to my fiance.
Yeah,
Valeria.
shout out to Valeria.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Amazing things happen in LA. You come to LA, amazing things happen.
I'm a married man, so we gotta acknowledge.
You know what I'm saying? So,
acknowledge it.
anyways, we'll see you guys on the next one. Elevate your mind.
Elevate your canine.
Let's go.
That's a good slogan.
Let's get it. This that go and get it. With no hesitation. This that never quit. Start that elevation. This that process.